Hi and welcome. I'm Ria and I'm looking forward to offering you a beautiful slow class. I'm still in the series of the wisdom of Christ. You don't have to take it from 1 till 15 as this is today. You can definitely just pop in. But the whole series is about words or saying stories that Jesus said and how we can draw wisdom out of this in our everyday life and maybe also in our spiritual lives. If you're not a particular Christian or whatever belief you have, you're just more than welcome. I'm sure that what Jesus said is somehow applicable to your life as well. So find a comfortable seated position. Maybe before that, find 2 blocks if you happen to have some. It's really nice because we're going to practice splits today with blocks, and that's a cool thing to have those. But more about that later. First, let's just get settled on the mat with whatever you have in your mind, in your soul, in your body today. So sit tall, as comfortable as possible. Sitting bones on the mat. Resting your hands on your thighs. Focusing in on your inhale. In and out through your nose if possible. So whatever you are seated with, maybe a whole lot of baggage, maybe not a whole lot of things today, just know that there is nothing to be ashamed of. I truly believe that God, through Jesus Christ, offers us grace, which means that no matter our history, our past, if we believe in Christ, we have nothing to be ashamed of, nothing we need to hide. We can be free in life and on the yoga mat. Free of other people's opinions or judgment. Free to know that we have a calling, special plan just for us that Christ or God has made. So let's move a little bit freely. I'll read the passage in just a little bit, but first, a few postures. So again, maybe you noticed something in your shoulders as you were seated, or your back, your thighs. So do something that will create a little bit of movement in your body. Today's passage is somewhat simple and doesn't need a lot of explanation, so I won't be talking as much, but maybe just reading it through a few times. So this passage is a passage that Jesus was saying in the Sermon on the Mountain. So it's some dense chapters with what Jesus said. So I'll just take a few verses, and of course, Jesus said more as he was speaking on the mountain, but this is just what is written down, so we'll just go with that. I have come up on all fours, moving into child's pose, but not too far distance in between the knees, as we'll come into tabletop in just a moment. So maybe you know this one sequence. Lifting up into your cat pose from child's pose. So Again, stacking wrist, elbow, shoulder. Then doing your cow, letting your sitting bones reach up. Then your cat, spine up towards the sky, and then let your buttocks move towards your heels. And let's follow the breath so that you inhale as you move into your cat. Exhaling as you do your cow. Inhaling, cat. Exhaling, cow. So just remember to inhale as you reach up. You'll probably be fine. 2 more times through, and do it slowly. As slowly as you can with the pace of your breath. Without getting dizzy, of course. If you're done, you can stay down in child's pose and listen for this short reading. Do not store up for yourself treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourself treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. What does this speak to you about? Slowly lifting up into down dog, spreading out your fingers, pinky finger might reach the outer edge of the mat. Lift your hip up and get some movements in the legs. So we're going a lot into our hips today as for the postural part. Take your right leg up and just do a 3-legged dog. Let's make sure that the fingertips are reaching really firmly down. You take your shoulder blades a little bit back and the lifted foot there, toes pointing down, and the foot or the leg is not more than aligned with the floor. It takes a lot of energy just to stay here, I think. Take the knee underneath yourself and move it to the top of the mat. Low lunge, which means the back leg is coming down on the mat. And maybe a little bit further to the back if you want to open your hip. Walk yourself up into our low lunge. Move your hip forward, hip aligned with the short end of the mat, and then reach your arms up towards the sky. You probably feel some balance, some strength here in your front thigh, trying to keep you steady. but also a little bit of a stretch in the back here of the hip flexors on the back leg. And let's twist, but an open twist. So you can do it as deeply as or as not deep as you like. Now right leg is at the front, left arm moves down, maybe just out here to the outer edge. So this would be a mild twist if you're pregnant or anything. You want to go a little bit deeper, lean more forward. Don't squeeze your shoulders together. You can even take your top hand here on your shoulder and just move the shoulder further down and back. And let go. So this is not the most slow flow you will ever find. Lift the back knee off the mat. And then take this back foot just a little bit closer into pyramid pose. So both feet are pointing in the long end of the mat. The back heel might come down, maybe not. Hip move in between the feet and fold forward. Now again, blocks here are amazing if the floor is far away. So I'm just going to use them now. Let your navel sink towards the front thigh and then maybe more of your chest and your forehead. If you feel like going deeper, you might do so. And let's release. Take your blocks with you to the top end of the mat. Hip width distance in between your feet, and you shake any tiredness out. You might feel different right now from left to right leg. But don't you worry, we'll even it out. Chair pose, arms reach up. Now let's do our prayer pose with the hands instead. So hip move back and make sure you don't do the ducktails. Take your pelvis underneath yourself and pull your palms together. Engaging your shoulders, your chest. Deep breaths. One more big inhale, filling lungs and exhaling out. And mountain pose, hands down by your side. Close your eyes as I'll read the passage as we're standing. Do not store up for yourself treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourself treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So where is your treasure in life? What do you treasure the most? Soften your knees and fold forward. I know that when I ask these questions, there's not a lot of time for reflection, but it's okay if you don't come up with an answer. Maybe we'll just start a reflection in your mind. Now plant your palms down, step back, down dog. Steady your breath. Maybe move your navel a little bit further, closer towards your thighs without moving your feet and hands. We're going to do the three-legged dog again on the other side. Now there is some tension down on your Achilles on the back here of the thigh. So if that's too much, you can always bend or maybe just come down on the knees and lift up. That's great options. So left leg this time, up and back. Create some length, closing your hips so that your buttocks are aligned with the floor. Toes pointing directly down. You might take a look. My toes tend to point a little bit out instead of down. All right, let's release that and step the left leg at the top end of the mat. Low lunge. So I always fold my mat. Okay, taking our time. Hip move forward. Make sure that the front foot or knee or ankle actually are somewhat aligned. Reaching your arms up and move your hip forward. Now this way of moving a hip forward does not mean that you lean back. We're not doing a back bend. The whole spine is kind of just following with the hip as you move the hip further to the front, if your hip allows this. Do you notice where your neck is? Are you looking down, or are your neck straight like someone's pulling a top of your hair? And it still isn't that length. As we twist a little bit, we just lean more forward. Again, you can go deep or not so deep in your twist. We did before, taking the top arm off on the shoulder here. Maybe rotating the shoulder a little bit back, creating more space. Some coming down here. If you need to let go of any tension, you can move that leg back. All right. Back knee off the mat, and we did the pyramid pose. So again, option of using the blocks. Close the distance in between your feet, still hip width distance. So I'm just going to show on the mat, hip width, which means 1 foot, if you draw lines, are still hip width distance. And fold forward. Try to notice if you can get the sensation of squeezing the inner thighs a little bit, leaning forward. On your next out breath, you might want to go lower if your hamstrings, the back of the leg allows it. And let that be enough. Go to the front, top off the mat. Move the blocks away. Mountain pose. And stand tall just for a little bit. Now take your hands behind your back. You might not be able to let your fingers reach up, just then let your fingers move down. I like that stretch. So support the lower back and just to notice where it is, because this is where injuries might happen as we lean back. We're going to do a standing back bend. So lift up your chest, and if you don't want to go too low, just think about lifting your chest up and let this top part of your spine move a little bit back. Soften your knees, and maybe you want to go for a deeper back bend with your back as well. Always holding the head if the neck is the issue. You can put your hands behind your head as well, or your neck. Using your core, abdomen to reach up. Folding forward, opposite stretch, but taking the time so that the fibers can kind of adjust from one stretch to the other. Now we're close to getting into our splits, but just one more huge hip opener and stretching for the legs. Right leg forward fold. So you can take your right leg back and then turn on your mat. Now I like toes pointing in, and of course blocks can be used for hands here to support if the floor is far away. First, just come down. Top of the head down. If you happen to be able to reach your ankles, you can pull the head down. Don't push your knees back. Maybe just a tiny bit, but not too much. Either feel it in the back of the leg or the inner thighs, the groins. That's a little bit different from person to person. Still taking deep breaths. All right, let's get that head up. Now move on the back so that your left foot is still at the top end of the mat and the right is back. And now we're going to try all of these splits that I talk about. Now, if split is just not something you even want to try, you can do your lizard pose with hands inside and the knee and ankle aligned here at the front. So this is your option if you don't want to go and try what I'm trying. I'm not good at splits, but I'm just working on it. So take your blocks, probably in the second half. If it's really soft blocks, it might not be that useful actually. And then move right leg back, further back, and left leg further to the front. Now, of course, leaning forward like this is not really that helpful, so we want to lift our chest up. So I'm going to go on the higher edge, mindful that I don't drop out. And this is my split for today. So I'm trying to at least, closing my hip, stretching the front leg, and of course the back leg. Some of you might just sit in this and be like, yeah. Breathe. Relax your shoulders as much as you can. Wow, I feel this. Okay, don't want to overdo it. So it's always hard to get out of this. So I'm like moving this front leg back to get myself out. Tabletop. And then be honest, was it too much? If it was, don't do the same thing on the other side. So let's start, again, the low part of the blocks until we kind of settled ourselves and they're not so wobbly here. So, right leg to the front, and remember, left and right might just be different. So don't overdo things. And here I go up on my highest. So here we practice deep breaths. And maybe practice that our treasures are not in what we can achieve and how far we can go and how great we are in the mat or in life. Let's free ourselves from having a treasure in other people's opinions. Because then our happiness will just be destroyed. Okay, moving out. Exit. I think this is the first time that I actually practice my splits on a video. But it's a good way, also for me, to do things that I'm not particularly good at. Come down on your back and blocks, bring them with you. You can do a bottle here as well. We are about to finish our class, but a little bit bending the other direction. So your block and the soft blocks are actually the best here. Now feet on the mat, somewhat close to your hip, and then we're gonna move into our bridge or shoulder bridge, lifting up the hip. Now this is not relaxing as you'll use your hip and your spine. But if we take a block in whatever direction, maybe it's just the middle part, put it underneath the sacrum here, the lower part of your spine, and rest your body on it. So not on the lower part of the buttocks, not on your lumbar spine, but just about where the last tip of the spine is. And then hang out here. If your spine is up for more, you can always lift up on the taller edge and stay here, maybe stretching your legs out somewhat. Let your hands reach out as if you were in resting pose. If you're ready to move out, make sure your feet is on the mat so you can engage your buttocks and back to lift up and remove the block. Spine down, and keep this lower part of the spine down as you tuck your knees in. We'll do a seated side stretch because we have not done a whole lot of those yet. So move up and take right leg out to the side. The left foot here, reach it on the inner side or the inner thigh. Don't have to pull it all the way in. It might not be good for your knee. You can even use blocks for your knee, actually. That's pretty nice. Then you turn your shoulders towards the knee that's bended. Feels like a little bit of a twist. But we'll move it into a side stretch. So the elbow here, if possible, can reach down on the inner thigh to kind of lift this top shoulder up. The free arm move overhead aligned with the ears, reaching down as if you were reaching your feet. Some might do it. Stretching your side body on this side that's bended, your left side, or the knee that's bended. So just one last reflection on this passage. So Jesus is encouraging us to have treasures in heaven, So what does that mean for you? What does it mean to have treasures where things cannot be destroyed, will not disappear, will not mold away? Where is that, or what is that to you? Stay with that thought, even though we slowly switch side. So where is heaven? Reaching out towards the bended knee, elbow and the inside. And lift up, making sure your chest is not leaning forward, okay? Shoulders actually somewhat stacked as you move to your side bend. So some of the treasures that I can recognize that I think is not in heaven might be treasures of, looking a certain way. Especially when you do videos like this, right? You want to look a certain way. And I don't want my whole life, I don't want my heart, my treasure, my focus to be on that. I want my focus to be on serving God and people around me. So that's one thing that I have to surrender. For others, it might be possessions or careers. That becomes the most important, or what you focus on. Reach up. Make your way down on the mat, as you might have blocks with you. We can use them for a wonderful heart opener. So take a look. You can put your block behind your shoulder blades, one of them, and the other one can be like a pillow. So I put the block down, the one behind my shoulder blades, and come down on it, and I always have to adjust it, so you might as well do it. And if it's not comfortable, just stay there for 20 seconds and then move it out. It's not a big deal, it's just an option. So if you're ready to relax, let's just give you 3 minutes, and I have my timer here. And maybe your prayer will be, help me to have my treasures in heaven, in things that will not be destroyed. God, help me to let go of focus on things that are not that important when it really matters. gonna wrap up this class. If you're done, you can roll out on the side. Maybe you move your pillow away and then roll onto the side. Move the block behind you. Move back and feel how nice it is to actually be laying stretched on the back. Open up your eyes. Maybe you get a little bit of movement in your body. And then sit. Finish our time with a very short prayer that you can pray with me if you like. God, I pray that my treasure will be in heaven, will be where it's not destroyed, will be eternity. Help me to let go of the things where I put my heart and my focus, where it's not really serving myself or others or you. Let you and your Spirit guide me. Amen. From my heart to your heart, thank you so much for joining me today. Before you close the laptop, thank you so much for helping me reach out with CrossYoga by you subscribing, liking, leaving a comment. Every single person counts here. So thank you so much for taking the time to help me offer you free yoga also in the future.